I was blind, but now I can see.
Yeah, calisthenics number 12. Yeah. Fly robotics. Bifocals, my only purpose is to feed the locals. I'm spreading love when I see you and gotta approach you. I see the goodness in you, I wouldn't John Wick you. I know you hustling for your family just to pay the fiscal. I see the God up in you, you bless your physical. While we navigating problems, the world is abysmal. Skip the one up, let's get it to the center. Your house is big as mine, we can always help each other. Affirmation smother, it ain't even cost me a dime to uplift my brother.
Oh, look, we loaded already. Got people coming in. What's up, everybody? I am your host, Joe Corley. Welcome back to Vulnerability is the New Sexy. I hope everybody's doing well out there. And it's the second Tuesday of the month. So you know what that means. We got our panelists today. You know, you're going to talk to your therapist today. And, we're trying something a little different today. I took some of y'all questions from the internet. And, hey, if you got more questions, throw them in the chat. Go to my Instagram, Vulnerability is the New Sexy. Load up some questions right there. We are more than ready to answer whatever questions come our way. And if we don't know the answer, we're not going to pretend to. Okay. And but today, I took some of your questions. I found some videos that kind of get close and similar to what you guys are asking me. And we're going to beat some of those things around today, man. We're talking about a lot of different topics instead of just focusing in on one. I got my beautiful panel here in front of me, joining me today. Felice Hightower Britt, licensed clinical mental health counselor and supervisor, and the Big Coach. My brother, Dr. Sekou Fraser, coming from Dallas, and my sis coming in at the buzzer. Just jumped on stage. I'm not gonna let y'all she come in ready to rock. Jeannie Johnson, CEO and founder of For Your Love Psych. What's the whole name, Jeannie?
It's For Love and Psych.
For Love and Psych. I said For Your Love.
Hey, I like that. I kind of like For Your Love.
For Your Love. For Your Love.
Very nice.
Good. Listen, I'm glad everybody's joining us tonight. We're going to get right to it, man. I saw, how's everybody doing today, first of all? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, it's a good day.
It's a good day?
Uh-huh.
Working to the very brink, Jeannie?
I know. And I posted. I posted for people to come watch tonight for like 2 seconds before, so.
I'm glad. You can stream to your audience too if you want. We'll give you some time to do that. Felicia's through her audience in there. Hey, Felicia's audience. All right, listen. I want to show y'all this first video, and then I want to talk about it in kind of a nuanced way, not kind of way it's presented, but the question is the same. I want to talk about kind of a burnout in relationships and how we approach that as clinicians. So let me play this video, and then we will talk about it on the other side.
Cool.
As a therapist, I want you to know about this trend that I'm seeing that leads to divorce in heterosexual couples. What I'm seeing is that women are exhausted from invisible labor, from doing all the things all the time, and wanting their male partners to step up. What stepping up looks like for most women is being seen, being heard in collaborative partnership. Women will do so many things before they leave a marriage, from asking the partner to go to therapy, from asking them to connect with them, from writing a list of what they need and what it looks like for them, right? Kind of like a blueprint, spelling it out. And what I'm seeing in every woman that comes in my office that says, I think I'm ready to leave my marriage, I need my peace, I need my sanity, is asking her husband or asking her partner to show up for her. And instead of him being willing to do the inner work to be able to connect, this is what happens. He ends up saying no because the bigger pain wins. And the pain I'm talking about is the pain of him looking at himself versus the pain of losing her.
So the way I want to frame the question is not so much a man-woman type thing. It's more because I know every gender experiences burnout in relationships and necessarily don't know how to walk out of situations. So the question that was posed to me on Instagram was this: what do you recommend for couples where one partner is exhausted and ready to leave, and if nothing changes, but the other and nothing changes, but the other partner would rather deal with the pain of losing the relationship than face the pain of doing the healing work? Right. So, do y'all have experience? I know I do. Do y'all have experience in this situation, and how have you approached it for the partner that is on the burnout? Felice, will you please? Do you have experience in this, Felice?
I mean, I do. I've known personal friends who have gotten there, and I've had a few clients where it was the woman who was exhausted, and I've had a client where it was the man who was exhausted. And so it's both. They all can experience burnout, and it's from unmet expectations, and it's also from a lack of understanding of that person's capacity. Sometimes with people, when they don't get their individual healing and they don't work on themselves, they really do have limited capacity to meet those expectations of their partner. And it's not necessarily that they don't want to, they just don't know how to, and they don't have it. And so where they are in that relationship, that's really the max that they can really give, or they feel they can give to themselves, even though that other partner is continuously asking for more, or just for simple things like communication, emotional support, physical support. And they don't think it's a lot, but to that other individual, it's a ton. And it's rigor and it's work that they really don't believe that is necessary, or whether or not they can really do it. And if that partner is not willing to meet that other partner halfway, or at least a little bit, that relationship is not going to work.
Yeah, 100%. Agreed. Dr. Sekou, do you have anything to add to that? And do you have any way to tell our audience how to recognize emotional burnout early enough to intervene before someone checks out?
Yeah. I think when it comes to recognizing emotional burnout, you find yourself tired of doing all the lifting. There was a joke by Chris Rock that he says that it's difficult to carry a couch with one person, but if you got two people carrying a couch, it makes it a lot easier. So if you find yourself as a person that's just dragging this couch or dragging this relationship all by yourself, and you've been asking and asking and requesting help, then you need to take a step back and really evaluate, is this relationship working for me? Because it may not. And then it's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to resentment. And then it becomes a lot harder and difficult to repair that relationship. And a lot of people get tied emotionally, and that's why they stay a little longer than they should in certain relationships. So just check in with yourself first. Your body always is going to tell you what feels right and what feels wrong. And if something does not feel right internally in your head, heart, and gut, then you need to make some changes for yourself, for your peace and sanity.
100%. Emotions, man. I keep telling y'all every time. No emotion is meant to be pushed away. You have to listen to those things, man. And that emotional burnout, you know, it happens when one partner is consistently leading in all the emotional labor, initiating conversations, the main one setting boundaries. A couple I had last night where, you know, one partner was seeking therapy. This was my first session with them. One partner was seeking therapy, and the other dude, I ain't gonna say, I threw him under the bus. Sorry, bro. You're the guy. The guy wasn't ready to be there. You know, he took a phone call in the middle of the session. Took a phone call in the middle of the session. I had to call him out for it. I had to sit there and call him out like, bro, I've never seen that before. Like your woman is saying that this is the last straw for her. You know, she's trying to set a boundary right here, and you took a call in the middle of this, and you say, "Oh, I want to be in this relationship." I don't understand how you can do that. But from the other side of it, Jeannie, how do we help the resistant partner see healing as not a threat, but as an opportunity?
Ooh, how do we help the resistant partner see healing is not a threat? I think we help them by um, clarifying that looking inward is a part of an investment that you make, whether you're in a relationship or not. I think sometimes this idea of I'm the one who's wounded, or I'm the one who's injured, or I need to change. As you said, it can be considered a threat, or it can be something that's seen as I'm needing to confront that there's something wrong with me. And I'm doing that confrontation only because I'm in a relationship, and not doing that confrontation because it is a general process of my human existence. That growth goes beyond growing for a relationship or in a relationship. It's an active journey that we make as an individual when we're doing the investment in life the right way. So I think I would take out the connection to the relationship first. That's how I would approach it. This idea of like, I recognize that you're in a relationship and there's someone that you love who's telling you, hey, I need something from you. I need growth from you. I'm expecting growth from you. That's hard. Let's put that on the shelf for a little while. And let's talk about what it looks like and how you're functioning, like in your day to day as an individual, and how you think you would want to challenge yourself to grow as a whole, not even to necessarily be different, but for the sake of your own growth. I think most people, when you just ask them as an individual ways that they've been stuck or the ways that they're stagnant, they can come up with a better answer than if you are looking to show them some change they need to make in the context of someone else.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're all in agreement on that. For sure. Listen, therapy becomes the space, you know what I'm saying, where you can slow down and, you know what I'm saying, ask yourself, what are we really fighting for here? And that's kind of what, I do in session. I like, listen, I try to clarify the reason why either one of y'all showed up to this session. What are we doing here? What exactly are we fighting for? And then we're going to start to talk about, the decisions that you're making to be here. For instance, how I checked the brother, like, I don't think he was ready for that. I don't think she was ready for that. I checked him mid-session, like, bro, what are you doing? You can't answer the phone in the middle of this session. You're you know what I'm saying? Your woman is hanging on by a thread here. You can't do that, and you know what I'm saying? And then I got him to kind of lock in. And then, but then after that, I make sure I say, listen, are you hearing all the things that he's saying? Are you hearing all the things that she's saying? Are you making the decisions based on how you want to live your life or how afraid you are? You know what I mean? Like that's what it comes to, because it doesn't sound like, this is what you actually want. You just, you hanging on to something. So let me ask you one more question on this, Felice. Maybe a couple more, but I'm gonna ask you, what do you say like when one partner is all in and the other is only showing up people who got an obligation? How do you handle those situations?
I mean, I think that I like Jeannie's point on how you would do that and kind of pull it apart so that the other partner can kind of see where the all-in partner is. And I have them take an honesty check, like, what, like you said, what do you really want? Because sometimes, and I plainly ask them, are you just here to dot the I's and cross the T's, to say that you asked me to come to therapy, I've come to therapy? Because there's some people who are already out, right? And so it's not really a lot that you can do when someone is already out. And so a lot of times when I see that other partner who just doesn't want to make change and doesn't necessarily want to engage in the session, I'm going to keep it real. I really put all my focus into the one who's all in. Like, I talk to them and I'm like, okay, so it takes two to tango. And if that other partner doesn't want to be your partner and doesn't want to meet you on the dance floor, then somebody has to make the decision to come off of it. And so I look to that partner and I'm like, you have to know that you are worthy of being fought for, that you are worthy of being respected. you are worthy of being communicated with and engaged with and loved. And when that partner has decided that is not good for them anymore, you have to take it upon yourself to love yourself and say, deuces, count your loss. But I also say it's not necessarily a loss. That sometimes it's a gift when one partner has checked out, because they're giving you the opportunity to heal, regroup, and then start your life anew. That is not always a bad thing when one of the partners checks out. But you can't fight for something that someone else is not wanting to meet you into the fight with. They don't want to enter the ring with you. So you got to go to your separate corners and exit.
Right. It feel good when you sit amongst your peers and they validate you like that. That's exactly what I did in that session. I did exactly what the B.Big coach recommended in that situation. I spoke right to the person that was engaged, and I didn't sit there and try to tussle with the person that wasn't. I'm not doing that, because you know what I mean. I make it very clear that the person is engaged. Like, do you recognize what's happening here? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? You dragging somebody to do something they're not interested in doing, and that's one of the quickest ways to disrupt your peace, is trying to get a grown person to do something that they don't want to do. You know, and we got to be honest about those things. And if you were in the audience right now listening to this, you know, like, you have to understand that that's what sacrifice and love is. Like, if it's not about you correcting your behavior or you changing your behavior so much as it is about my partners feeling uncomfortable and unsafe in this space, what am I willing to do to make the space safe for them? If I have control over it, because sometimes you don't, but if you have control over it, what can I do and within my power to create a safe space? But I know I said I was done with that, but I want to talk about the difference between change and compliance, Dr. Sekou. Like, you know, compliance is short term. You know, we can get people to do what we want them to do for a short time. But you know, it's like, okay, fine, I'll go to therapy if it makes you happy, and I'll go to a couple of sessions and I say I went. Or, you know, but real change is like, I'm in therapy. I realize I need to unlearn some things. If I want to be better, if I want, you know, if I want us, you know, I'm going to do the things that I want to do. So in your experience, do you have any ways that you've taught partners to tell the difference between genuine change and somebody just trying to be compliant?
Yeah. Most times, and I just pointed out to him like this, change comes with a level of consistency. It's very easy. It's almost like children, they'll be good to get whatever toy they want, or to go here or go there, but their ability to be able to maintain that level of consistency and seeing the bigger picture is, if I work on changing this behavior, good will come of it. And then it's just, I just look at it like that. It's just watch and observe your partner, because you can nag that person and jump into therapy and they'll go and they'll just attend because that's checking the box.
Mhm.
But then the real work starts when you're outside of the therapy room. The tools that are taught, how are you applying it? Are you extending grace? Are you extending patience with that partner? And are you being consistent along the way? And if the person's not being consistent and is not dedicated or committed to change, it's kind of really hard to really make that work. Because the biggest thing about you wanting to support their change is that they have to want to support their change. And you can try to hold someone up, but the hardest part about holding someone up is your arms get tired and you eventually just kind of give up, because you can't keep doing all the work for them.
Yeah.
That's it.
100%, man. I am in 100% agree with you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Like, we are in situations where, you know, one person is doing all the work, doing all the heavy lifting, and, you know what I'm saying, the other person is just kind of, you know, floating by or whatever. And, you know what I mean? Like, we have to make choices. Again, I'm keep saying it. I say the same stuff over and over again because it matters. We have to make choices that are in alignment with who we are, you know? with choices with alignment of who we are. I know I said I was done with this. Jeannie, I got one more question. I promise I'll move on to the next topic. Because, you know, sometimes we come into this couple situation thinking we need couples therapy, right? But what's
Sure.
really needed is individual therapy,
Yes.
some solo emotional work, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So when do you recommend pausing couples therapy to focus on individual readiness to even be in the couple session?
Absolutely. I think the moment I see that there are relational dynamics that are clearly being propelled from some level of um, emotional trauma or issues that exist outside of the framework of the relationship. So I'm going to say that in like more of a layman term. The minute I notice that a patient or a client is exhibiting resistance, not because they have resistance to the relationship they're currently in, but based on a pattern that is honed from something else, maybe from past issues in other relationships, past issues in their family upbringing. The minute I start to see there's something sort of in the way, I recommend that. And sometimes I recommend it as auxiliary to therapy, not even just like, hey, you need to be an individual first, and then we'll come into couples therapy. But actually, there needs to be, it would be advantageous for there to be both an individual aspect to your work and a couples aspect to your work.
Right. Straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. Again, the same. I'm always the same. Listen, I wanted to tell y'all before we get started, if y'all are inspired by anything that another person's saying, and you want to throw a question out or pose another question to each other, feel free to do that, man. I want to open up.
Yeah.
I want to have a conversation. I don't want to just be me firing questions at y'all all the time because these things just be coming in my head, and I'm doing my work, and I'm like, I wonder what so and so thinks about this. You know what I mean? Like, people I respect. So
Yeah. I think, something that I've noticed in our speak here is we are talking about resistance, right? And I think there is a very negative connotation that comes to resistance, right? But we all know as providers, resistance isn't always someone attempting to be negative or attempting to withhold or attempting to be distant.
weird.
Resistance can come when you feel ill prepared
Mhm.
to show up for someone, right? Or you feel an incapability or a powerlessness to show up in relationships. So I want to just leave room for that as well for anyone who's in a relationship with someone where you find yourself being the one who's holding the emotional baggage. You find yourself being the one who is taking the leadership role, and that person doesn't seem to have capacity to show up. It's not always with intention that we don't show up. Sometimes there are roadblocks that we have, and I'm a part of the roadblocks. We need to talk about the person who's experiencing resistance and what's the influence from the person who's doing everything. Because sometimes I'm not doing things because the other person won't get out of the way so that I can do things. The other person isn't sitting back and allowing. They have a perfectionistic way of showing up that
Mhm.
requires of me not just that I do what needs to be done, but I do it in their way. And that is stuff that we need to always account for when we're in therapeutic sessions. You had a person who shows up at your office and they're in the midst of this couple session and they take a phone call. Well, was there a boundary that was set about that kind of behavior before they walked in? Or were they thinking, you know what, I'm a doctor or I'm a this or a that, and taking a phone call is really important in my profession and it's common in my relationship. So they had no idea that that was a boundary. They had no idea they did something wrong. So
Yeah,
just accounting for those types of things.
yeah, yeah. In my case, it was common damn sense.
Yeah.
You're not.
Boundaries are never common damn sense, Joe. You know this.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know this. I have ground rules. There are ground rules in my office, and they are established before we ever sit down. And one of them is that phone needs to be turned off. You deserve this hour or this 50 minutes all to yourself. We don't get outside distractions. So click it off. But if you don't,
I'll be straight up. It was a virtual session, and they were in two different locations.
yeah.
And brother took the phone call and didn't even mute himself.
Oh no.
So me and the other person talking like, huh, what? We trying to hear over him having this conversation. Right, never in my
Hilarious.
things, but I ain't never seen that. As I was like, I said, man, I've never seen that before. I literally said that, like right there. Like, I've never seen nobody do that before.
Now I didn't see it at all.
Congratulations, bro. You the first. But but piggybacking off what you said, it's also shame and guilt, right? I'm ashamed to hear how I'm inadequate to be.
Yeah.
I've already come into this situation being told over and over again
Yep.
that I'm a failure in this relationship, and the last thing I want to do is take accountability for who I am or my shortcomings. And I don't feel like it's safe for me to do that and still make space to tell the other person what I'm needing in a relationship too. Like that's the part where I kind of get the person rammed. Like it's okay for you to talk about, you know what I'm saying, some of the things. It's not just a bad session for you. It's okay for you to talk about some of the places where you've been feeling your needs haven't been met and you've been feeling inadequate and uncared for and unloved. Like this is equal opportunity space. And then they be like, oh, well, good. Well, let me go ahead and, and start unloading. So, I mean, but yeah, sometimes people just are disinterested. Like you have to accept that, partner don't want to be there and not interested in doing the things that it takes to repair a relationship because they think everything's fine.
Yeah.
Um, I got into a back and forth on the internet, y'all, in some comments, and I usually don't do that, but I didn't like elevate. I kept it profesh. I kept it profesh, but I was trying to come in as a clinician when I
Mhm.
saw this next video, and I kind of got upset because I don't think clinicians should be talking like this, but
Oh,
I want y'all opinion on, what I'm saying, on what I'm about to show y'all to
okay.
let you know, like, because I don't feel like clinicians should be engaging in gender wars, but I know it's easy sometimes. I think we have to do our best to do the peaceful work, even if some of the stuff that's being said is true. You can't engage in it. So I want to hear what y'all got to say. Y'all might tell me I'm crazy or, whatever, but let me play this next video.
Okay.
Jeannie said you couldn't hear. Did y'all hear that? Sekou and Felice, y'all can hear it? Jeannie couldn't hear it?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I
I don't
did.
know.
Okay. So
Synopsis? Yeah.
basically what she was saying is that, they asked her a question about what her take on gender wars, and she's
Yeah.
basically saying, look, I have a unapologetic take, and some men, she said some men have mommy issues, and then she went to say that uh, basically all men who are raised without certain, there are one of two different ways, and then she kind of broke down it from like a one gender side of the situation. So, but being asked about gender wars, she then engaged in gender wars, which was my problem. And then
Mm.
when I said that in the comments, some women were upset, but then a woman clinician got in there and said actually that because I was saying, look, at least I'm not saying the things that she's saying wasn't true. I'm just saying that as a clinician, do you have a therapeutic responsibility not to engage in that? And she was like, the woman clinician was like, well, that wasn't exactly true what she said. There are men who basically everything doesn't have to do with your childhood. There's men who show up poorly in relationships that, because of their last relationship or because
Mm.
she was
Yeah.
basically making it seem like every man that shows up poor in a relationship or every man that has a certain situation in their past is going to show up in a relationship a certain kind of way. So, question two becomes, do we think therapists should be online contributing or reinforcing gender wars? And what role should we play in those conversations. So, Elise, I know you chomping at the bit. Okay, you got some opinions on this?
I really don't. And I wasn't. I mean, no, seriously, because I think that what we do is we get a sound bite and we do what we think they're doing on a sound bite. You know, we overgeneralize that one bit of what they're saying, and I didn't take it that way. I didn't overgeneralize what she said, you know, and I'm sure that she was putting it in certain contexts, but in that amount of time, you really don't have time to really break everything down so that it fits everyone's situation. And so, and do I think therapists should be online? Who knows? We probably shouldn't be online doing this either. So it's like, it's up to, it's up to everybody as an individual, and they get to do their journey the way they want to do it. And so if they're therapists and they're willing to risk their license, their reputation, their whatever, that's on them. More power to her. And I don't mess with anybody's coin. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, look, if that's the choice that you made and you all right with that, that's you. Like, there's certain boundaries that I set with myself, you know, like there's certain things that I won't talk about online. And it has nothing to really do with me being a therapist. That's just a value that I have, right? And the reason I say that is because we all have some kind of profession, but I'm more than just my profession. You know, I'm showing up as a therapist, but I'm more than just a therapist. And so I also try to show that to my clients and potential clients, because we sometimes put healthcare professionals on this status, you know what I mean? Like, we're above this. And at the end of the day, I'm a therapist who's a human being who probably got into this profession because I had my own trauma. And so it's like, you know, because of that, right, I need grace too. And I'm not always going to show up in all my spaces 100, but can you give me grace? And on an individual basis, I, as my own value, I'm going to give you my best, period. And I'm going to try and meet you at your need. And then if I can't meet it, I'm going to do my best to recommend you to somebody who I think you can. And so I don't know. And we're living in a day and age where everybody's got a platform. Doctors, psychiatrists, everybody's got one. And so, you know, I don't think I have really any need to speak to that. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't have no need to speak to it after you just spoke for 4 minutes. Spoke a lot, sis. Okay, he spoke a lot. And you know what? Noted. I took everything you said.
I got a loud laugh, so I have to mute myself, y'all. Right?
It was good.
Hey, don't ever mute your joy. What are you talking about?
You know, I love and respect. I gotta take that perspective. Like, maybe I went to I don't know. Dr. Sekou, do you think we have kind of responsibility, like a therapeutic responsibility, even in all spaces, like to not contribute to something like a gender war if we're asked those kind of questions?
Number one, I think, frankly speaking, I'm tired of the gender war stuff. I'm just tired of it, right? So when it comes to contributing about that, me personally, I just don't have anything to say. You know, I'd say if there's some sort of issues going on, go and talk to your therapist. And I just like to stay clear out of it. Now, if someone is asking about some sort of advice, because I don't get on social media much, I don't say a lot of things, but if I can give you just general guidance, that's what I'll offer. But I don't believe in just really getting into it. This person says this, and you know, that's just way too much for me. And that's just not my personality. So I may not be the best person to ask for that. I just defer to staying out of it. That's it.
That's kind of that was kind of my point. Like, I feel like as clinicians, especially Black clinicians, gender wars are really harmful to our community. I feel like that. I feel like they are really harmful and hurt us in a great way. I feel like we have a therapeutic responsibility to be like, we're not engaging in this in any way. We're not going to be seen taking sides. We need to have healing on both sides, and that's just kind of where we need to be. But I take Felice's point, you know, about, you know, being more than just a therapist, also being a human. and having your own lived experiences. But Jeannie, is there a place where we should have to draw a line? First, give me your opinion on the whole thing, and then my question is, where should we be drawing a line between our personal feelings and lived experiences and crossing into harmful generalizations?
Oh, this is a tough one because I'm someone who's I'm happy to be in the mix. I have no I have no qualms about being in the mix. Yeah, at all. Zero.
Mhm.
And I'm fully with Felice in this we need to recognize the humanity of providers and understand that there no bias. Bias is going to exist. It's always going to exist, and we can account for that. And we have the privilege of that when it comes to deciding who we want to work with, right? I don't inherently work with a psychologist or a therapist of my own who I'm oh, I know they're going to be live in complete and total neutrality. No, I'm very specific that the person that I choose to work with needs to be someone who understands my community, needs to be someone who has cultural competence, needs to be someone who has a framework that is rooted inside of that cultural context, not just that they get it, not just that they're educated on it, but they actually are a byproduct of the cultural context in some way is very important to me. That they come with an educational clinical framework. It's very important to me. And that in itself has inherent bias. So when we're talking about things like gender wars and fueling gender wars, do I think that clinicians should be inciting these things or villainizing one gender over the other? No. Do I think they have an obligation to be educated about what the problems are, what the struggles are, what are the ingredients of the gender war? Absolutely. Do I think that they may take a position, and I may take a position in a specific circumstance that may, in my education, I may be influenced by that education? Statistically, there are things that exist for men that do not exist for women in the same capacity. So if I take a side and say, hey, men are really struggling with this, someone online might say, oh, Jeannie just said men are struggling with this, as if men are weak or whatever else. And I'll say, no, statistically speaking, men are struggling with this. Buck up, buttercup. That's what's going on. That's what it is. And it's very easy to take these things, like Felice said, out of context. And that's what happens when you utilize a soundbite versus totally understanding the platform of Dr. Cheyenne Bryan, because I'm familiar with that practicing clinician. And she takes some strong points and standpoints. And I think that's very important in our world, to be cunning, to be direct, to be assertive about our viewpoints so that people can know, and especially those people who can be helped by us, so that they are drawn to us. If I'm neutral about everything and for everybody, that's not real. That's not me calling in the people who are meant to work with me. That's not me living inside of purpose, right? That's me trying to fit everybody's wheelhouse and trying to make everybody comfortable. I don't care to make everybody comfortable. Some people need to be uncomfortable so they can change, so they can grow. And I'm good with that. And I'm good with that online, and I'm good with that in my office. So
You just preached, Jean.
Yes, you did. With that, we're not the same with that. I don't agree with you, but that's all right.
Okay.
That's all right. Yeah.
I appreciate y'all. Y'all grew me on that topic, because I was really, I threw it out here a lot for myself, because I'm man, was I right or wrong in that situation? I don't know, but I need to expand the conversation so I can get some more, input. I'm personally already triggered a little bit by the layers of trauma and mistrust and broken relationships within our community. I'm already there. I'm like Dr. Sekou said, I'm tired of it. So when I hear anybody contributing to it, whether you're a clinician or not, I'm already at a spot where I'm I don't think anybody should be doing this, because I know that it's not. I know that the things that she said, those statistics that she brought up, I know that those things are true, right? A lot of them are true. I know that we can do the same for women and how they're coming into relationships broken a little bit, right? I know that these things exist, so I don't see any benefit to doing that or weaponizing, clinical authority against Black men or Black women. That's kind of what I thought, but I'm listening to y'all talk, And I know I'm familiar with her. I know she takes a lot of stances that I personally agree with. So I was just not attacking her as a clinician, but just that particular thing that I heard. But you're right, y'all. It could be just a sound bite. You know what I mean? It could be, it could be me bringing my own personal experiences into a situation, and you know what I mean. Our role is to hold nuance. I believe, like these patterns exist.
They do.
But so do root causes and expressions. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think it's just in the remember. Oh, go ahead, Felice, if you want to.
I'm going to say that's why we're all needed in this space, right? Because you're going to speak to men who have a sensitivity in that area, right? Like there's something about what she said that possibly triggered something for you. Whereas when I was listening to her, it did nothing to me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't get triggered. I was like, okay, you know what I mean? Seriously. And so that's why we need everybody into the space so that you can speak to those things for those people. But I'm just seriously, I think that's why it's so important that we follow our purpose and that we also know our niche. And that we also show up in our spaces as authentic as possible, because there's somebody who needs me and my directness and my experience, even though because I come into my space with the knowledge of what my trauma meant for me. And those are the people who I'm going to minister to. And that's my tribe. And that's who they're going to get me. Right. And so I can't speak to everything and everybody, and I don't want to. And so that's why we're all needed.
Noted.
Could not agree more.
Fully noted. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for growing me in this moment. Fully noted. I understand. Did nothing to you, huh? Did nothing to me. I didn't. That's
We want you to feel supported. I feel where you're coming from. You're protective. You're protective over the community in a way that's necessary. Absolutely. That's like real dad vibes, like legit. Like that's not all of us though. Some of us are out here like, they need to hear that and they need to be moved by it. And then they need to understand the experience they're having inside of it and what's being triggered for them so they can dig deeper. So,
found myself by the end of the back and forth, I seen a couple brothers jumping in on my comment to attack her. So I had to be like, nah, bro, I'm not with that disrespect of a black woman, not on my and I ended up going back and forth. The person I'm arguing with the most was the men. So I'm like, damn, I'm starting to see y'all are triggered, man. I should have right then and there. I should have been on Felice's train right then and there. Like, damn, y'all are triggered by this.
Yep, it hurts.
I was like, what you mad at me for? I'm just, because I'm not with that. But yeah, let me move on from this, man. Y'all got me. I feel you. Thank you, appreciate you. Always taking the healing and understanding. But I do want to talk about healthy male affection. Because that's another video. I hope you hear this one, Jeannie. I got another video I want to play y'all about healthy male affection. So let me play that, see what we got.
What would happen to the way men use their bodies if they were hugged by their dads more? What difference would it have made if you experienced healthy, pure, safe male affection?
Man, I would have been a different type of emotional being. Male affection is so important. I think it's binding to always be worried about, do I look manly or not? How can you truly, truly walk in love if you're consistently worried about if you look like a man?
That sounds stressful.
Manhood is a calling. One of the biggest issues I have with society is when people say, be a man. You're not being like a man. No, God made him a man. Now you can help him to be more of a man, but don't tell him that he's not something that God created him to be. And I think a lot of times men are just afraid to walk in who they are. And this is the reason why our relationships are jacked up, because society puts so much pressure on us to look like, no, I can't not be a man. That's who God, I'm actually a man. But I can't actually be a man because I'm so consumed of not looking like one. And I think that God wants us to be free. Because when we are free with our wives, with our children.
So I saw that and I wanted to talk to y'all about that. Because, hey, Deborah, thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate you joining us and also affirming our value. Thank you so much, sis. Glad to have you tonight. So yeah, I saw that and I thought to myself, affection from male figures. Yeah, okay. You can learn emotional security, self-worth. You can learn trust. I didn't receive it myself, so I'm trying to balance what I'm hearing. And between myself, my personal experiences, my experiences with clients, and it's not just for boys. I mean, I want to know what impact healthy male affection has both both young men and young women's life. I want to talk about, how does it affect, how do affectionate fathers positively influence self-esteem and boundaries, and how young people allow themselves to be treated by others. So, Dr. Seiko, I'm going straight to you, man. How has male affection or the absence of it shaped who you are today?
For me personally,
Yes, sir.
yeah. For me, growing up, I've had that good, strong male affection. Um, and just also just getting it from, uncles, grandfathers, it shaped me to know it's okay to be loving. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay when stuff hurts. And, you know, number one, we're human beings before anything else. So men can be tough. Men can act like they're the toughest guy in the world, but pain is pain. So just being able to have other examples growing up, seeing men that I respect and honor be real and vulnerable, it means a lot. So that teaches me, or it taught me, um, it's okay to have a softer exterior. And what I mean by a softer exterior, it's being understanding to um, different situations in life and how to show up. And it's not always being a tough guy. You can have that silent strength and still move the crowd with that versus barking and being loud, or just showing up being a tough guy.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I feel the same way. I would say from the absence of it, right?
Hmm.
I started listening to you talk, and I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm like, I'm trying to recall any successful, healthy, intimate male relationship that I've ever had, and I don't know that I've ever had one.
Hmm.
But I lacked that intimate, male interaction as a child, and even as a teenager. I never experienced that in a real way. Like I never had no one teach me or guide me through vulnerability or any of that. It was always, tough love and what I mean, and re, you know, reactivity, emotional reactivity to everything, and people pleasing behavior because a man has to perform and all those other things. So I can't think of a single time where I've been engaged in an intimate relationship with a man that was successful. you know. So I look at it from the flip side of it. But I want to ask, Jeannie, you know, what do you think the difference is between? First of all, I want to hear how it's affected your life as well.
Yeah.
Presence or lack of presence of an affectionate male figure, and then I want to know: do you know the difference between being raised with like love and then being raised on survival?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I have not experienced the lack of an intimate male figure in my life in growing up. Even though there was a period where my father was absent. His brothers were very involved, and my mother. I come from a family like there's very few women. There's like a lot of men, and they are very close-knit and very affectionate individuals. So while there are varying layers to their ways of being, some of them are much more sort of conservative to male values, and that somewhat stoic and tough love rhetoric. They still are very validating. So I have never experienced that. The difference between love and survival. Now that's a tougher, more layered question. I'm going to take it from the standpoint of, like, let's say creation. Okay, like when we come into this place of understanding that we have autonomy over what we bring into our lives. Many of us are either in the space of creating from love, which is this idea that, like, life is abundant and it's joy, and the things that I touch and the things that I think and the things that I believe, I can bring them to fruition. It's easy because it's going to have a good outcome. Where survival in creation is consistently a reactivity, right? It's a reactivity to oftentimes something very negative, something traumatic, right? Because that's what surviving is, right? I'm literally on the other side of something that was not good that happened to me. And so creation from that space is, I'm reactive. Creation from that space is, I've already decided that something bad is going to happen, or that there are going to be barriers. Maybe my motivators exist as things that are angsty or negative. Like, I've seen people who create from baggage, like from this idea that my mom wasn't there and my dad didn't teach me and I didn't know this and I didn't know that. But I'm going to take that, like, lack. I'm going to take that scarcity, and I have a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to make something of myself. And many times those are the ones that we see who are prone to things like my value, ideas, mindsets, that my value is tied to my performance, right? My value is tied to the accolades and degrees that I have on the wall. My value is tied to how many people I can beat up, like, or how strong I can be, like, we see these types of connections in those who are creating from that space of survival versus love. So I hope that makes sense. The differences. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I was that you said it was layered. Was that a difficult question for you to answer?
I find it difficult in that, it looks so different for so many. I mean, there are people who, in their survival state, shrink, and so they live these very small lives. And then there are people in their survival state who grow very, very big, like very big and very performance based and very, like, accomplishment prone. And those two things just look very, very different. So one can, and there's also that veering, like, you can start in survival mode and then transform in the work, or in an intervention, in a disruption that takes place, transform to a space of creating from love as well. And that trajectory it just looks a certain way. So yeah, I think it's I think it's a very layered experience. It looks different for everybody. Yeah.
Agreed. Elise, I want to ask you, from the point of view as a clinician, do you see clients, what would more, like, emotionally expressive fathering do just for future generations? And have you seen clients, like, struggle with affection, either giving it or receiving it?
I think that's a good question, but I don't know if I'm able to see that in a therapeutic session, as far as, because I don't work with families. And so, you know what I mean? And so I don't think I'll be able to see that. But I do want to say this, that I do believe that video was great. And I think that when men step into the role that it's okay for them to be loving, that is going to heal a lot of what our communities are going through. There's something about the love of a father, the love of a man, and I mean a good man with good intentions. There's something so powerful, therapeutic, and healing that comes from it. And I really think that, especially in our Black communities, that is what we're lacking. We're lacking that love from a good man. And once we get that and they rise up in their role as loving men, secure in love, because you were talking about survival. Survival is selfish. Loving is given. And so, you know, and it's okay to give. And there's an abundance of it. And I personally grew up, my dad was in my life for a little bit, but when he left, there was a void, you know, there was something that left with him. And I remember what it felt like to have a good hug from my dad. I remember what it felt like to have a good kiss. And then I also know what it felt like when it was gone. And so, you know, we're so used to a mother's love and everything, but I think it's even more powerful for a man to do it and to give it to the people that he says he loves. And so I'm ready for that. And I'm very encouraged by this generation of men. I think y'all are so beautiful and different. And I'm so encouraged by the knowledge that y'all have and the security that y'all are walking in, even if you didn't have that from your past. There's something different about y'all. And I'm so encouraged for future generations that, because I think the Black man today, I think more of y'all are wanting to be that loving man for himself and for his families. And that is what is encouraging to me. And I think that is what's needed. And even though I missed it for a great portion of my life, I know that as a born again Christian, my father said that he would be a father to the fatherless. And so I really leaned into those teachings. And that's where I got my void filled. And that's how I knew how to become and get out of survival mode. Because I believe that, you know, I did see and probably lived a great portion of my life in survival mode. And I was able to transition to love because of those teachings.
Absolutely. I wanted to say, if it's okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about that lack of affection from father figures, or from, let's just say, the paternal figures as a whole. You know, I think we talk a lot in our society about women who have an absence of the paternal figure and what that does to them, and how they go, you know, in romantic relationships looking for something to fill that void. And we don't talk enough about what that looks like in men when there is not a demonstration of the paternal figure, when there isn't a demonstration of how to show up inside of manhood, right? And I think that void, how that void can send you into several different ways of being. One being a lost void where you're testing limits consistently throughout your life. So you really never know how to be. And so it's just kind of trial and error with other people, other men. The other where you take a very removed, sort of shrunken way of showing up and being with other people. And the other where you just in general take a very aggressive sort of standpoint. Everything is competition, right? Everything is me having to best, having to show, having to prove my manhood. And I think it's important to have the conversation about that, all of that existing in the context of lack, in the context of there not being a model, and also in relationships, how there is this kind of starvation that happens for men who haven't received that affection. So you're almost starting from this understanding that the only way that I can achieve any kind of like loving embrace or any type of vulnerability is in the context of a relationship, and in the context specifically of a romantic relationship. And so my partner becomes that tool for my accessibility to affection. Like, there are dire consequences to this lack. So I think it's important that we talk more about that. So I'm glad that we are.
Well, thank both of y'all for that. Felice, thank you for that, those affirmations and all that. Jeannie, thank you for that boost. You know, we need it. You know what I mean? You know, in honor of Men's Mental Health Month, we definitely need to be told that, you know what I'm saying, that that good things are happening in our community as well amongst the brothers. You know what I mean? So thank y'all both for that. And listen, I want to move into our takeaways for tonight, and then, you know what I mean, share with the people where they can get a hold of you, where they can follow you and be a part of your movement. Dr. Vibe, thank you, man, for that feedback. I really appreciate it. All the way from Canada. I appreciate you, good brother. Hey, listen, if you appreciate what these beautiful Black clinicians are doing tonight, please show some gratitude in the chat. Just let us know you listening. Hit us with a thank you, a heart, or something, just to let us know that we, that we continue in the good work. Sometimes this is a thankless profession, and we need as much self-esteem boost as we can get. Where did the wounded healers go? You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what we on that. But let's keep it rolling. Felice, please, give us your takeaways. Tell the people where they can find you. And do your thing.
Well, one of the things that I always tell my clients is that I know there's a lot said about a woman who's nagging her man, but nagging may not be such a bad thing, because if she's nagging, that means she still cares. If she's nagging you, that means she still thinks that there's a chance. It's the moment she stops. The moment she stops, it's a wrap. And so I want y'all to think again about your nagging partner, right? And then I want you to know, I believe that love is the key, right? Like, it's so crazy. We say it all the time. Love is the key, but I think a bigger key is when our Black men stand in their manhood of love. I think that when that happens, that's where the healing begins. And the transformation happens. And so I am Felice Hightower Britt. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor. My private practice is Resiliency Therapeutic Services, and I'm on psychologytoday.com. And I'm the b.big.coach on Facebook, Instagram, and my website is www.thebbigcoach.com.
The b.big.coach. Thank you, Felice. Once again, Dr. Sekou, please drop them gems for us, good brother.
Yeah, I just want to really touch on the beginning part of how people are dealing with emotional burnout. I think it's important to understand that we teach people how to treat us. And if we're not getting treated the way that we need to, we definitely have to take time to recognize what's going on, put yourself first, and don't invest time into places that you don't need to be. Because sometimes we spend too much time in a place and we lose ourselves where we could use that time to build ourselves up. So I would just put a pin in it for that one. And you can find me at www.sagetherapygroup.com, Dr. Fraser, Dr. Sekou Fraser on Instagram, and Dr. Sekou Fraser on TikTok as well.
Thank you, brother. This brother's a whole mindful vibe, y'all. He feels like verbal yoga. Okay.
He does have those like very Zen vibes.
Yeah, it's like verbal yoga, man. That's mindfulness personified, man. Thank you, good brother, man. I'm always with you, man.
Good way to put that.
Yeah, for sure. Every second Tuesday, y'all get some of that. Jeannie, please give your closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Okay. I think that I'm going to start from the beginning too. So related to burnout in relationships, or like maybe compassion fatigue in your relationship, and imbalance in your relationship. I think that, we talked about there being this labeling of almost like malice or ill intent of the person who is struggling and having resistance. I think I just want to, as a takeaway, drive home that if your partner is struggling to show up, let's remember that if we're wanting to continue to do the work and we're open to doing the work, let's leave room for partners are not always resistance in the context of wanting to hurt or wanting to not hold the other end of the couch, because Dr. Sekou gave that Chris Rock reference. Sometimes it's that, you know, I don't know how to, I don't have a strong grip. Like I don't know how to place my hands. And so I'm not placing my hands right. So leave room for that and leave room for outlining wants and needs on both sides. I thought that was great that you brought that in, Joe. This idea of like we get in the room and then the two of them are in equal playing space. We're able to give them that opportunity for both of them to note not their grievances with one another. I don't know that I'm like for that, but just like their take on what may be missing in the relationship or where they might be missing each other in the relationship. So I think that's really important to the conversation of men, because I'm just huge on that and big on that in my platform in general. And I did a whole month dedicated to just figuring out more about this and helping men in vulnerable spaces. I think Felice is absolutely on the ball with this. When men start to understand the value of power beyond love and their priming towards, or the power of love beyond power, because there's this focus in society about them acquiring, attaining, understanding how to be powerful and enact power upon others of their own gender, outside of their own gender. Like, I think once they learn to turn more towards love and to be connected to the things that they love and care for versus having and enacting power over those things, I think the world changes like in a big way. And I've seen it. So I think that's a huge takeaway as well. Like we need men in love. We need men to love and be love and understand that is so valuable and that they can create so much better from that place than the place that they have been creating from for many a millennia. So that's huge. Where can they find me? They can definitely find me in the mix and taken aside. So you can look for me on Instagram for Love and Psych. You can find me on my website, www.forloveandpsych.com. It's under revamp, so you'll probably like the new edits, I hope. And then you can find me, you can email me, info@forloveandpsych.com. And if you want to engage with my other side, which is much more me and much more showing up as a clinician and a human, you can engage with me at JLJ2141. That's more my personal side to social media. I'm good with both sides. Very human over here. And if you want to work with me, you need to know that there will be some bias. That's part of it. You know, that's where I am. So appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you for that. Listen, I created this space with the intent for helping growth, helping healing. I could take, salacious topics from the headlines and we can talk about that and beat them around and all of those things. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to grow. I want to be around people who help me grow. And I want to give that gift to our community. And tonight's conversation reminded me, or reminded us all, I hope, that, healing doesn't really come from like being silent or being proud or pretending you're good. It comes from being vulnerable and connecting and, being truthful. And, we open by kind of talking about when one partner's in a relationship and emotionally exhausted and, how the other resists growth. But that's not just a couple's issue. That's like a reflection of many of us. Like a lot of us resist the growth, especially men. I'm not going to lie about that. And we've been taught to avoid the hard work of healing. And I'm saying that firsthand. I'm not just general. I'm saying what I see firsthand as a clinician. And, we turned the lenses on ourselves as clinicians for a second. And we start, I did anyway, about, are we helping or harming when we get caught in these type of things? And, our voices do matter. People, I made a post earlier this week about how basically anytime you say anything, the first thing somebody does is call you a fake therapist. It's like, damn. Damn, I can't, you can't talk about that. That's go straight to my credentials. So, I understand our voices matter. And especially, in our community, being a Black therapist, I really, truly do believe it comes with a certain responsibility because our community is in jeopardy. So I think we do have a responsibility to walk a certain way, but as I agree with and heard tonight, there is a part of us that are humans, and we have to accept that part of us as well. And we can't live to everybody's expectation of what we're supposed to be as clinicians. We're not perfect, and we're not robots. So, and then we went on to talk about healthy male affection, which is a big one for me. What a hug from your father does. I hug my son all the time. Or a safe space to cry with your brothers. I don't know that. I've never sat in a space with a man and cried before. I've never done that. Do I cry? Yeah, but I've never done it in that way. So, I really want to keep exploring, that dynamic about, healthy male affection and where it can lead to for the next generation. So, hey, it's men's mental health month. So, brothers, I hope you're tapping in. You know what I mean, and finding some safe spaces and the courage to speak. And hey, happy Pride Month for all my gay ass friends. You know what I mean. I'm here for y'all too. I hope some of y'all are watching tonight. But we need this for our community, where Black men and all people are allowed to feel, to heal, and to be seen without shame. Um, that's what's important. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And like I said, man, I hope you engage. I really want some feedback from y'all. You know what I mean? I do want y'all to be engaged, but I don't want to, try to chase no engagement. You know what I mean? I want y'all to understand what the purpose is, and I really want y'all to get people in front of these conversations that you really feel need to be here, because some people are avoiding this work. To every person doing the inner work, your healing is contagious. So I want you to, put people in these spaces, and you can find me and all my socials on my website, realuconsulting.com. It's right there in the tagline. And I'm gonna keep it, I'm gonna end it with that. Be honest, be you, be the real you. Y'all have a good night. Felice got them glasses on so she can see.